Thank you again. I hope you can all hear me. I'm going to talk about the Rokwood project, some of the things we've done and the outputs of the project, some of the great things we've seen down the last 3 years. And as you can see, there's a number of my colleagues that are named here and that helped in the production of this paper. So short rotation plantations as opposed to short rotation coppice, this is our shorthand way of encompassing anything that has a rotation of between 2 and 20 years. So short rotation forestry, short rotation coppice, and that includes willow, poplar, Robinia, Paulownia, eucalyptus, anything with a fast growth rate and a short rotation and closely spaced. Rokwood involves 20 partners representing 6 different countries. So that's Germany, Ireland, Poland, Spain, Sweden and the UK, plus the European Biomass Industries Association. Each of the countries is represented by an SME, a research organisation and a local authority. It's called the Triple Helix. And it's a 3-year project that's coming to an end in only about 6 weeks' time now, the end of November. The idea of rock, where the rock comes from, is regions of knowledge. And what that's about is trying to bring together countries and regions within those countries that have knowledge and those that really want to get to that place and to try and develop an industry in their locality. So what we have here is some of the different partners. Sweden in the Skåne area there, and in northern Germany just here, are very advanced in the marketplace. The market's not exactly growing in those countries, but they are advanced in what they've done so far. Then you've got the southwest of England here, which, even though England has got quite a lot of energy crops, mostly in the southwest it's miscanthus and a little bit of willow and perhaps a little bit of eucalyptus and other things. Then in the mid and western regions of Ireland, you've got a very similar sort of dynamic to what you have in the UK. You've got lots of need, but not a lot of actual production at the moment. So you've got lots of off-gas areas, you've got low woodland cover, you've got tremendous potential to be gained from flood defence from SRPs and water quality improvements, but unfortunately the policy hasn't been there to really get people planting. Over here in Poland, you've got the real potential because there's lots of markets there, lots of real interest in this, but not a great deal of infrastructure, say, to actually make it happen. So a lot of the planting that's done in Poland, for instance, is done by hand. And then you have in the southern region of Spain here, in Andalusia, you've got, again, an interest. You've got but because of water shortages, it's more difficult. So they're in a kind of a research phase of looking at trying to develop the best sort of germplasm to grow in these very, very challenging climates. And then all around here, you've got other people that are interested. And we've tried to encompass some of that as well. And this is what we'll talk about when I get on to the international cooperation. This is the technology demand of some of these countries. As you can see with the Germans and the Swedes, they don't really need too much because they actually have most things already. Whereas west of Ireland and Mazovia are interested in varieties, planting machinery, harvesting machinery, processing machinery, logistics, end-use technology, etc. Not many people interested in consultancy, which is a bit of a shame for me. My company's a consultancy. And then mentoring as well. So similarly, southwest of England, we're interested in quite a lot of that offer that people have. And there you can see the sort of the offers that they do have. So northern Germany and Skåne can offer all of that as a package. And we need to harness that real knowledge and learn from their discoveries along the way, because it is really, really pointless reinventing the wheel. So the project involves a number of work packages and tasks within those work packages. The way the project worked was, at first we looked back on what's happened in the past, where we are at the present time, and then we're thinking, okay, there's a perfect situation in the future, getting to those targets of 2030 and 2050. How do we get there? How do we make those right decisions? And so in order to get there, we need to get the right research done. The research that is possibly what the industry needs, and maybe not so much of the basic research that is really interesting and very valid in its need as well, but not quite going to help the industry over that tipping point. Then there's the policy. So again, looking at what's happened in the past and trying to learn lessons from that and make recommendations for the future to help us to get to the place where we want to be. And then to work with these other countries. And through that, there's this joint action plan, and you'll have your copy there, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. So we started off here at this side of the programme and worked through, and the idea is at the end that we'll get some really good projects out of it, because we're creating the need for that. If you remember this triple helix thing, it's coming from the SMEs. The SMEs are driving the growth of this industry across Europe, and therefore this is all down to the SME perspective. We've done first a PESTLE analysis, which is the political, economic, social, technological, legal and environmental factors that are affecting the industry. Most of the clusters did a interactive workshop, and we identified a range of these things, and I'm sure that if you did it in the States or elsewhere, you'd probably find as many as we did, 78 factors. Lack of incentives, lack of infrastructure where you need it, where you want to plant. Sometimes it's the age of farmers. In the UK and Ireland, they're very old. Actually, a good thing in Poland, because they tend to be very young. So there's an opportunity there. And then the invisibility of in government departments, it tends to fall between two stools. No one really wants to take ownership of this issue and help force it through. And then the lack of awareness and understanding. And one of the things we've really tried to do is to change those received wisdoms that people have about energy crops and SRPs in general. The PESTLE was then turned into a SWOT analysis to make it more sensible, and we produced a common SWOT analysis. So SWOT being strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And these are fairly typical sort of things, the strengths being carbon reduction, fuel security, biodiversity, weaknesses being the political will, skills and infrastructure, lack of incentives, as I've mentioned. What we want to do is to harness that information and turn a weakness into an opportunity. And that's what we've done with the policy briefs. So the second part of the project, I mean, let's face it, that first part was a little bit depressing. It was a bit depressing. The second part is trying to find ways forward, innovative ways to get out of the rut almost. So we've set about producing a joint action plan. The JAP has 6 priority areas, and within that there's 34 tasks really to take it forward. The way that we came about those is that we all had this perfect situation, and we went to a workshop in Goslar in Germany during the medium-term event of the project, and we did a World Cafe type of thing where we all moved around tables and had brief chats about what we thought for various things, and we eventually boiled it down to these 6 priority areas, one of which was development of education and training programs, and one was lobbying at an EU level. In essence, what we need to do is to create certain pilot projects. I think in these areas like Ireland and southwest of England in particular, where we have no power stations and we have no pull at the moment, but we have small little pulls, like lots of houses off the gas grid, for instance. We need to create a pilot that will demonstrate that something can work. Regional species and transnational agronomy guidelines. There's lots of information out there, but it's all a little bit disparate. We need to pull it all together in future and have a kind of pan-European sort of perspective on it. So it's pretty much right for everywhere you go. And then knowledge transfer of cultivation, logistics and end use to make it possible to transfer that over to people who need it. And then one of the key things is multifunctionality. It just keeps on getting missed by policymakers time and time again. There's so many things. An energy crop is a multifunctional environmental crop. And that's what we need to market these crops as, because it can do more than one thing, and it's also a very, very good use of your land space. We've heard sort of the sort of numbers are like 20 units of energy out for 1 unit of energy in. It can go up to 30. But if you then also look at the additional land use potential, like water quality improvements, flood defence, all that sort of thing, it really makes it very, very important indeed. But suffice to say, we had some various events throughout the project in order to try and engage with these people, these key influencers in our backyard. So we had one event in Bristol and one in Mullingar. Overall, you know, they're very successful. It is difficult though, because we are a small sector, and there's lots of people who are shouting a lot louder than us, so we're having to try and fight above our weight. We've also sent some of us to our sister project, the Logistec project, to speak at their various events. So here's two that were held in Brussels as well. We're really trying to look at cooperation and then also the impact of energy crops. Now that was us versus almost the people that are slightly anti-energy crops, and we were trying to reach out our hands to them to try and engage, to try and make them understand. So talking about biodiversity, I thought I'd show this slide here at this point, because it is one of those things that people do always think is a monoculture, and it certainly isn't. It's thriving with wildlife. We've got birds' nests, and you've got some ducks and some hens in here. You've got a pheasant just walking through there. That's a long-tailed tit. Giant aphids. You've got bees. Absolutely love your willow. So do deer. Unfortunately, sometimes they like them too much. And then you've got this wonderful caterpillar here that is very well camouflaged. So it's absolutely thriving with wildlife, and it really should be part of the greening measures, or in a bigger, better way than it is. In the UK, we have not adopted it at all, or in England, I should say, we haven't. In Wales and Northern Ireland, it has been adopted, but there's just not enough arable areas in those countries to make it a pull for planting short rotation coppers. So we kind of need it to be more part of the policymakers' minds, and not just at the outset, but also as you go through the process, because unfortunately the consultancy process means that you end up with a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor, and unfortunately it tends to be the SRC miscanthus side of things that just falls out, because there's not enough of us arguing for it. So because we need to get organised and do a better job, we need to reach out as best possible, and this is where that marketplace idea comes in. So at Goslar, we also looked at all of the countries that we might want to import things from or export things to, and then countries that we would like to have research collaborations with. But we all researched some of the countries on our doorstep to just really try and understand them as well. The good thing is that there's lots of organisations out there that we would like to work with, not just that they're involved in the industry. These are 70 organisations identified by the partners in the project that we'd like to work with. Similarly, because we did this agenda of research that is required, it's important to go forward in that. Why just say we need this research? You've got to find the researchers that can do that for you. So in your own country and in other countries, you might be able to say, these are the people that can help with the combustion technology, the harvesting technology, the plant breeding, etc. And you've got to try and say, guys, start working together and make this happen for us. So from 17 countries, we identified 99 key scientists from across the world, and that's including South America, US, etc. Also part of the international cooperation strategy, we engaged in various activities, and the Swedes were incredibly proactive in trying to bring people to them. They have a problem in getting farmers in their own country interested, because anyone who is interested has already planted the crop. So in order to meet their obligations of the project, they actually invited people from other countries to come and visit them. So here we have a training delegation from Lithuania, and then also a trade delegation from Ukraine. And in both of these countries, they're planting the same sort of amount of willow as the Swedes were planting in the mid-90s. So it's exciting times in the Eastern Europe. So that's sort of 2,000 hectares per year. Towards the end of the project, we started to disseminate as much as we possibly could. And one of the things that is an absolute key output of the project is this book of best practice case studies. There's 40 really good case studies from across Europe in here. And I'm very excited about this. And I think this will stand the test of time, this publication, because it's for the first time, it brings together so much information. Here we have Strawson's Energy and Cool Fuel, the Bioenergy Village in Beukte, Goethe College, which I'll mention also. I mean, these are incredibly good projects that are ongoing, really, really successful, and they need to be replicated. The more that people read about these, the better. But these guys are making it work, and we need to showcase that, and that's what we've tried to do. Because we are small, I've mentioned that, and it's difficult to get the funding and everything. Part of the project involved putting together project portfolios, so when calls come in the future, we're ready for them. And so we've come up with 15 project ideas under 3 themes. Harvesting and processing of SRPs, end use of SRPs, so that involves the combustion and that sort of thing, processing and value adding. And then the multifunctionality as well. So here, for instance, this is a picture of willow being used as a wastewater biofilter system. So that sort of thing would make sense to look at the added value of that, for instance. And then this is a typical sort of field here. That needs to be harvested at some time, and often it gets harvested later into the season. And if we had systems that could get in there and harvest willow on wetland, then it would make it slightly easier. So that's a sort of thing. But also this indicates that willows don't mind inundation, so they do help with as a method of flood defence. But unfortunately, there's not a great deal of information or research that's gone into that. It's all tending to go into longer growing tree species that do the job quite well, but at a lower rate, and not quite as well as SRC and miscanthus. We were very, very privileged to be able to go and see some of these facilities that ended up as case studies. So this is the largest CHP unit in Europe, and back in 2011, that unit there was using 160,000 tonnes of willow. Unfortunately, a policy shift has meant that has decreased since, because the green certificates have fallen. But it was fascinating to see, but it's mainly still based on coal, but the intention is to change one of the units to biomass exclusively. This is the Beukte Bioenergy Village. It's a fantastic situation because you've got 65 houses and the fields there are poplar. We also managed to see harvesting being done in many different ways, the HSAB chip harvester. We also saw the biobaler in action in Sweden. We've seen breeding and selection programs in both the UK here at Fenswood Farm and in Andalusia to see Polonia breeding and selection. And then we've seen processing and end use as well, so briquetting of miscanthus in the UK and chipping of baled willow in Sweden. Every place we went had something different to offer, and that was what was really interesting. And I think people got a great deal out of this site visit in Bristol. This is the use of willow as a wetland ecosystem, and it helps treat the water that is produced by 30 camping barns. So it just flows through these channels, and eventually it comes out as a fully potable water. It's a great scheme. It would be nice to see more of those sort of things happening. In Ireland, there's plans for a 15 megawatt CHP plant in County Meath that we went to see. And we also were able to go and see Bord na Móna, who've been trying valiantly to get growers of SRC over the last half decade, I would say. And then moving on to training courses, we had a little bit of a difficulty in certain places because some farmers are not interested, and they won't be until the policy improves and the incentives improve. So what we try to do at various courses is to appeal to certain people. So in this situation, this is Kingston Ward College in Dorset. They've had willow for 8 years, but they've never had a market for it. They've never used it themselves. So we brought over this man who is doing that in Ireland to try and show them the way. And similarly here down in Devon, we're looking at the very, very novel growing of short rotation forestry eucalyptus, which again is probably going to be very, very interesting to people in the southern part of England in particular. In Spain, they've had an amazing turnout of people to their training courses. I mean, they probably had more people go to their courses than all of the rest of us put together. So that's brilliant. That shows that there's a lot of interest there. And they've also got this benefit of a new pellet plant that is going to take SRP poplar. One of the things we also have mentioned is that it's really important to change perception. It was mentioned several times that people always think that this fuel is bad. It's not going to be great for boilers, and it's going to make a real mess of things. What we did in the UK is get the Wood Heat Association to come and actually look at the Strawson's facility. Strawson has 420 hectares, so he's done it in a very, very professional way. And everyone was really, truly impressed that you can produce a very, very good quality fuel without any of the problems. And therefore, some people are now considering the possibility of using this, whereas before they wouldn't touch it. They just were not interested. And similarly, at the Regen Southwest Renewable Energy Marketplace, we struggled to get engagement from our local Renewable Energy Association for the first half of the project. But towards the latter half, they've been fully engaged. So we've really, really reached out to them in order to get them on board. So that's a really good news story. So we are changing perceptions and getting people on side. Talking of the willow as a fuel and people's perceptions, one really good thing about this, and I really do encourage you to read the publications, but also to try and download a copy of this one, which will be available on our website shortly. So this is a Swedish publication produced by one of our partners, SP, that has been translated into English with funds through the Rokwood project. And it's really, really good, and it provides that sort of information that will be beneficial to you in your different countries. Also, new links have been created throughout the project. In Ireland, you had lots of different growers ploughing their own furrow, really. And through the project, and with liaison with IRBIA, the Irish Bioenergy Association, and Teagasc, the crops research agency, really, for Ireland, there was a link was made between these growers. And that's created that sort of little bit of strength in numbers that's required. Now, I mentioned this chap, and this is one of my favourite case studies in the book, and I was lucky enough to go on a staff exchange to see this, and it was probably, of all of the trips I've ever made to see anyone, it's probably the one that I came away smiling about the most, because it was just the best case study I've ever seen. And such an amazing person, Mike Pearson of Girton College, because he has taken this ball and run with it, and has made an amazing success. They don't have a renewable heat incentive, or they didn't when he started this project. So it was all about trying to save money on the fuel that they were using, which was oil. And they're saving about 100,000 euros a year, or something along those lines. And they are absolutely laughing about it. They think it's the best thing ever, and they just cannot believe that not many people are doing the same sort of thing. If they did have the renewable heat incentive, they would be probably doubling their profits. They're heating their facility, and they're saving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. It's amazing. And if you ever get the chance to meet him, I really would recommend it because he's a fantastic guy. Just on the dissemination, the Rokwood website will continue after the project finishes for 3 years. So we're going to use it as a news and dissemination facility. We've had 5,000 odd visits. We've got an active Twitter account. We've been very active there. We've produced videos and been on Polish TV as well, really trying to spread as far and wide as possible. And rather than just have one final conference, we decided that we'd have two. So we had one already this year in Vienna at the EU BCE, which was very well attended. And now we're having this one with the AAB. And again, as I mentioned earlier this morning, it's all about trying to get those young researchers interested and also those very established researchers to sort of share their knowledge. So the project outputs are many, and if we look at the people trained, 584, that's gone up to 275. And people don't like to register on these sort of things, but it's really important, and I think people are starting to see the benefit. Conferences attended and presentations 23. Everyone will be more aware of SRPs because of the efforts of this project, and that's a really, really important thing that we've tried to do. And hopefully we will start to see many more projects coming off the back of this, and we will also see the pilot projects that need to drive the industry forward, but also the policy. So there's the happy Rokwood team, and so I'll say thank you very much for your attention.